Hello, hello, hello. I don't know how long we've been live, but I've been so laggy, it's completely ridiculous. Welcome to another episode of the We Talk Chelsea podcast with Temba, Tom, and Charlie. Somebody's picking up, and I'm going to guess that's Tem, judging from the sheepish look on his face. It's coming through his microphone, my voice.
Sorry.
Boys, three of us Sunday League players. Temba and I played yesterday. We were very much mimicking Badiashile and Silva in defence yesterday in our game. It was exceptional. The United by 11 Chelsea Football Club. And boys, what a difference 2 months wait makes. 2 months we've had to wait. We've not won a game in, is it 9 now? Not won in 7 in the league. And all of a sudden, we go to Bournemouth. We all massively predicted we'd be lucky to get a point, and we ended up walking away with all 3 points. We'll start with Mr. Positive himself. Charlie, how are you feeling on the back of 2 months without a win, without barely any? Well, did we even draw in that time frame? But it was just terrible. But now look at this. The corner has been turned.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's probably a little too late to have any say on the season. The history books will tell you that we finished in the bottom half of the season, and that's it. But look, it's a relief that we haven't got that the R word, the relegation word on our lips. Not that I ever truly believed it was going to happen. I ended up last week sending you a spreadsheet of how I didn't think it could happen, just to convince myself that it couldn't happen. So I didn't truly believe that it could happen. But of course, you get other fans, don't you, talking and everything else, making fun of you, let's say, in nice French, to put it that way. But yeah, it's great to have a win. And with that match in mind, I think it wasn't actually all that different to how we played in a few of the other matches, at least. I wouldn't say against the Arsenal match, but a few of the other ones in between. We weren't that much better than we were in any of those games, I didn't think. It's just sometimes it is just that bit of luck, because there was plenty of times in the first half I thought Bournemouth could have scored, and had they scored, it coming off the back of 6 losses with that sort of confidence, we probably would have capitulated, and we may have lost the game 3 or 4-1. So it is that rub of the green that you need sometimes, and I think that's just what got us over the line. But brilliant,
Yeah, I think I have to agree. Like, I don't think we played much differently compared to what we've done in the past. I think the key thing is we were much more clinical with our chances. We are actually taking chances, making shots, and we have players coming like Madueke got his first start for Chelsea in the Premier League. I believe it's his first start, and he was a revelation down the right side. Tim, do you agree?
I think it was his second start.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Arsenal. He started against Arsenal.
Oh, sorry, yeah, he started at Arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was quite good, but maybe that's just because of the standard we're playing at the moment. I think he played all right. He looked a bit dodgy, if you get what I mean. Like some of the skills he was pulling off didn't quite come off, and he was going into challenges a bit like unhinged in a sense. But I think he did all right. But it just more speaks of the quality of what we've played like lately. I think everyone's been so crap that when we do play well, and we sort of, we sing everyone's praises when they do something a little bit magical. So in a normal Chelsea season, he would be considered average. But because we've played so bad, yeah, his stocks are a bit high at the moment.
I agree with that. I don't. Sorry to interrupt. I know he played well, but when you actually boil it down, he didn't actually do anything. He didn't score a goal. He just all he did was take a player on. It wasn't anything. Just literally all he did, which is something that none of our players have done. This is right what Tem was saying, because any team in that bottom half of the table has the odd player who can take a player on. We just don't have it, and that's been the problem. Even players that should be taking players on, like Mudryk and Sterling, just don't do it. And all he'd had to do was just take a player on, and his final passing was pretty woeful, to be honest. But it was just the fact that he took a player on and got to the byline. That was all it was.
Yeah. And I think that the key thing that made Madueke stand out for me is, like I said, he was taking players on, and I think far too many times down that wing side. And I think even Reece James himself is guilty of this, is trapping the ball and passing it backwards and not utilising his pace and power to get in behind. if he was a lot more as direct and confident as Madueke was, like seizing his opportunity to get in behind the Bournemouth left back Vina to try and get that cross. And even if the final product isn't there, I think if Reece James had that kind of mentality, I think there'd be a lot more balls going along the 6-yard bus for tap-ins for Kai Havertz or whoever is going to be leading the line for next season. Let's speak about the team selection. We noticed a lot of players finally getting their first start, obviously due to, well, not first start, sorry, but coming back into the side after a few injuries. It looks like we played a 4-3-3, which is, something that we're not particularly fair at. We're used to playing 3 at the back at the moment, but it looked like Trevor Chalobah is playing on the right side. The centre partnership of Thiago and Benoit Badiashile. Badiashile had not been seen for a while for reasons that can't be explained. Charlie, I don't know about you, but I don't understand why Badiashile has been playing more, especially not in the Champions League squad, because surely he should have been playing in the league more.
Yeah, and I thought it alluded to me again last the game before that against Arsenal. I know it was probably a while ago, and it's quite hard to when it's not fresh in your mind. But when Fofana got injured, he decided to bring Chalobah, and I thought that was very strange because I think Chalobah, though I think he's a pretty good player. I think Badiashile, I don't see what that guy's ever done wrong, if that makes sense. When you've got that player like sitting there on the bench, why wouldn't you bring him on? That didn't make much sense to me at all. So that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was exceptional. Like, he looks very solid. Like, I think it's very rare that I'd say it's very difficult because there wasn't a lot to really do other than the Vina goal, which was an exceptional finish, by the way. I think we made the joke that Kepa didn't stretch his arms out, but I don't think even 6'8" goalkeeper would have got to that. It was so perfectly in the corner. Yeah. We couldn't really fault him, but Badiashile looked up on par with, if not better than, Thiago Silva. Could he be heir apparent to that Thiago Silva kind of leading the back line when we have to look for not just next season but the season after? What do you reckon, Tem? Or do you think that's more the Wesley Fofanas of the Chelsea squad?
Do you mean between Badiashile and Fofana?
Yeah.
Well, from both of them, I haven't really seen a great deal of leadership. But in terms of being more of a battler, I see that more in Fofana than Badiashile. I think Badiashile is more the calm centre back who could probably play out the pass more and, be like the kind of Thiago Silva or Ricardo Carvalho, if you remember him.
Yes.
A bit of the cooler centre back on the ball. But obviously, Fofana is probably going to be more like Nemanja Vidic or Ivanovic, someone who's going to go into every tackle, make the last-ditch block, and throw himself at everything. So it more matters about their character and personality. But at the moment, we haven't seen anything to indicate that either of them are going to be captain material at the moment. I see that more from probably players like Enzo, Reece James, obviously Mason Mount when he gets a chance. But from this current crop, I don't quite see any leaders.
I mean, not necessarily in terms of leading the team, but like leading the back line and being in the back line.
Yeah, in terms of leading the back line, I think if he improves a bit more, just positionally, because I think when we saw some of the goal we conceded and just a few plays as well, he was out of position quite a bit, but maybe that's just due to getting adjusted to the league. We do also forget he's just come into the league, so over time, I could definitely see him leading the back line for a long term.
Excellent. I mean, Charlie and Tem, you touched upon it. It was a misunderstanding, but in terms of leadership, where do we stand? I think you've got a very strong viewpoint on this in terms of leadership in the Chelsea squad. Like, where do you see the captain's armband going? Because for me personally, Azpilicueta, I think he's been past his best now for at least 3 seasons. I think he's kind of been made captain by default, just because he's got that seniority over players. But where do you see the next leader for you, who's going to take that armband, who's going to be galvanise the team in moments where they don't, who's going to be the John Terry, who's going to be the Jordan Henderson of the Liverpool world?
We don't have one, and that's the problem. The only one we have is probably Thiago Silva, and it's not worth giving it to him just for a season. I mean, unless we literally haven't got anyone else, it just shows that we need to buy someone. But when we buy, they're talking now that we're going to buy 3 players or whatever this summer, goalkeeper, midfielder and attacker. Those are at least the 3 main positions that we need to focus in on. They have to, all 3 of those have some sort of personality, I think. I really do. Especially the, I mean, even the striker, even look at what Harry Kane does for Tottenham. There is something in that, but especially the goalkeeper, because once Silva goes out of that back line, and you look at that back line, and it's Badiashile, Fofana, Chilwell, and let's say Chalobah, who was there. That was the back line in the last game, right? Without Silva replacing that for Fofana, there is no leader. That's just four blokes, who are quite good players. And they're probably a pretty good back line. But behind you, Kepa, God, he's not a leader. I mean, he's the opposite. He needs leading, that guy. He needs to be told what to do. So they need to focus in, and that's why I've said, for a long time, Jordan Pickford. That's who I would have as the goalkeeper. But that's for another day.
It's not for another day. We've got an hour on this one. So Jordan Pickford, I think we'll come back to this a little bit later on. We'll discuss in terms of goalkeepers. I want to talk about the lineup. Now, I alluded to it previously. The lineup had a lot of younger players that have been purchased in the last season, have been thrust into the limelight a little bit, and it's looking likely now. There's another injury to another fullback. Once again, Ben Chilwell looking like potentially he's going to be out until the end of the season. It's looking like. Kukurea is out to the end of the season as well, so that's 2 left backs down. I thought personally, when Chilwell pulled up with his hamstring, I thought it was going to be an opportunity for Lewis Hall to come to the pitch, and by all means there were chants in the crowd for Lewis Hall by accounts to make his thing. Do we see Frank Lampard potentially giving that opportunity to Lewis Hall, or do you think he's just going to put Azpilicueta at left back?
Well, from the signs we saw, he put him on the bench last game, so I imagine he probably has some sort of use for him, maybe. I hope he doesn't put Azpilicueta at left back, because he kind of even hesitated to put him at right back against Bournemouth, so I don't see why not. Lewis Hall gets a chance. Lampard's usually the guy to give youth a chance as well. So if he trusts him, I don't see why not.
Especially with Lewis Hall. I mean, the game, we'll preview it a little bit later on, but the game on Saturday is a home game against Nottingham Forest. So surely Lewis Hall, that be a game that at home, not necessarily against Manchester United, against Man City, against Newcastle, teams we still have to play. Surely that would be the best option to bring him in, Charlie. Do you think this is now an opportunity for Lewis Hall to kind of be given the last 4 games of the season? Say, look, go out there, 4 games, relegation, we're completely free. We're not going to get anywhere near it. We're not going to get top of the table. 11th is the best that we can hope for now, it's looking like. Do you just throw him in there and just say you've got 4 games to show what you can do to the next manager coming in?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see it, but then I question. A lot of people are saying what you're saying, Tom, right? And they're going, well, there's, we're not going to be. This is as good as it's good, but we can still go down the table, can't we? As far as I'm aware, like with the Wolves and there's a few other teams behind us that are chasing our tails. Now, if we just go into those 4 matches and go, right, the season's over, Lewis Hall's going to start, and we're going to put Mendy in goal, and we're going to have a real old, we're going to have a really interesting lineups every week, and that's basically it. We'll lose every match probably. It'll be quite a good watch for everyone, but the point is we'll probably slide down the table further, and I just question whether it does that matter. I mean, I don't know in the grand scheme of things how much each Premier League place matters, but it is humiliating, isn't it? If you just going into matches like that, it's a bit of a pitiful way to end the season. And yes, Lewis Hall by all means, but he knows deep down the only reason he's getting these opportunities, which are great opportunities, I suppose it's, he knows anyway, doesn't he? But he knows he's only getting these opportunities because basically we don't care. Yeah, it's a bit like Ryan Mason when he went to Tottenham that season a few years ago when Mourinho went, and they kind of just flung him in there. It's like, look, we've written the season off already. Do your best, Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I was just having a look while you were talking there. I was trying to bring up the amount that people get per position. It's very marginal in terms of how much you get money-wise. The difference between 11th and 15th is 8 million. in the grand scheme of things. It's very, very marginal. And I think, does it matter? I mean, I know we got to sell players, but 8 million is something that is not really much in the grand scheme of things. We've got to shift, a lot of players. I can now. I wasn't very, very keen on it, and I didn't think it was going to happen, but I could definitely see potentially Trevor Chalobah being sold in the summer as well, just to kind of we'll get some sort of money for him. But I think of the players that are homegrown for Chelsea, I think Trevor Chalobah I think it's very unfair to say, but it's not. He's probably the weakest of the players that we have in terms of potential, and like how he currently performs. I mean, Tem, what do you think? Do you think it's something that we need to push to finish in 11th, or does it matter if we just go and end up playing the players that are going to stick next season, especially if Poch comes in this week, which David Ornstein's alluded to, that is going to be announced at some point this week, and Charlie's going to owe me £20.
I'm not going to owe you £20.
You're going to owe me 20 quid. We'll just call it even for the Arsenal bet, won't we?
That's the whole point.
Yeah. What? Do you see much point? Is there any point in trying to, push for that position if you're going to end up 14th and the difference is what, a few million quid?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, half of the reason some of these players will get minutes is due to, financial reasons. You'll see a lot of players maybe we don't like starting, and you saw players like Ziyech even getting back into the starting 11. I don't think he's any Chelsea future plan. So, I don't know. To be honest, to answer your question, it's just a case of we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think one of the things as well I wanted to speak about is, for me, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but it looked like background noise. For me, I think the Lampard got the substitutions right at just the right time. I think he got the start. He got the starting lineup right. The goal that they came back into it was an exceptionally well-worked Bournemouth goal. It wasn't through any lack of Chelsea ineptitude, I don't think. They used the triangles pass through, got the shot off, and they got the goal. Like, it was an exceptional goal. We can't fault, Bournemouth for that. But it looked like he picked the right team, even though it was 4-3-3. But the substitutions that he brought on, Sterling and Felix combined for the third goal. Ziyech got the assist for that. I mean, Charlie, how does it feel to see that these kind of players that haven't been performing have come on and then performed in that moment? Do you feel like they should be put back into the squad based on their substitute performance, or do you think it should be okay, leave them where they are for now, maybe potentially bring a bit more of experienced people back into the games against the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds?
I mean, the way that I look at it, and the reason that we're probably have lost all these matches a lot of the time is because what ends up happening is we lose a match that we shouldn't lose, or we draw a match that we should. It kind of started this year against Forest away, if you can remember. We had this match where everybody thought we were going to win, and we didn't, and we probably should have lost it, but we came out with a draw. And and looking back, it was a good point actually, right? But what happened after that is everyone went, "Oh, we're in crisis. Why did Potter start this guy? Why did Potter?" So then the next game he's come in. I can't remember what match it was. He completely ripped it up again, and then he put on someone came on and did something well off the bench, and then they go, "Oh, well, he has to start." And this is exactly what happened against Arsenal midweek. Madueke played quite well, so he keeps his place. But then Aubameyang, he had a bad game, so Kai Havertz comes back in, and Aubameyang's off, and he's finished. Back to that. Sterling had a bad game. Mudryk came on, looked a bit tasty, so Mudryk has to start. So what you end up with is a completely different 11 to the one that you had the week before. And it happens, if you can imagine. That's just one example. This happened every single week in that 6. I guarantee in those 6 matches that we lost in a row, there was not one starting 11 that was the same. In fact, I'd vouch that there was probably 9 players who possibly, no, I would say 5 players maybe who played every single one of those 6 matches. I'd vouch that. Because every single, at the end of every one, there was always, why is Cucurella not playing? Why is he not playing? Why did he play? Why did he play? And then Lampard listens to it, and then he does it again, and then he just becomes a tinker man, and then basically no one can play together, and that's what happens. And so when going back to your question, which I think I can remember, which was about whether Ziyech should get game time. No, he shouldn't. It doesn't matter how well he does, because he doesn't want to be at Chelsea. So it just doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Him in particular is an irrelevance. Yeah, I admit he played quite well, I'd be the first to admit
Yeah.
that. I've changed my mind on Koulibaly. You know, I'm not like someone who's really sticks by my position that often, as you know. But I just think if he's made it clear that he doesn't want to be there, there's no need to flirt with him. You know, let's just say, look, you're not playing for Chelsea again. Thanks for your time. In fact, just send him on holiday now. There's no point. You know, I don't even see the point of him being at Cobham. I just don't see the point. Why are we keeping him fit? Just get rid of him. He's got enough money for his own gym.
I agree. I think players like Ziyech and Pulisic that aren't going to be here next season. You know, Pulisic is going into his last year of his deal next year, so he's very likely he's going to be sold in the summer. Then rather risk losing him on a free. I think they should. Like, why don't clubs send them to the under-21s to train anymore? What it is? Do you remember when you were like younger and growing up? Like, what was that thing? Like, people would just be sent to the under-21s to train. Like, why is that a thing that's just completely that doesn't happen anymore? Is it purely just financial reasons to retain a resale value? But if they're detrimental to the squad, why bother having them? Does that make sense?
I think it's also what certain journalists, if you listen to a few journalist podcasts, they say, like, especially Matt Law, he kind of explained this in one of the London is Blue podcasts. He said certain players have certain targets to meet in their contracts in terms of appearances and bonuses that they sort of have to get to. So it becomes a bit political when picking the starting 11, especially at major clubs. So you can imagine, especially with the amount of players we have, you probably are going to see a lot of players being changed.
Do you mean around. Like, just examples? So do you mean like, say, for example, Pulisic in his contract says, I need to make a minimum 30 appearances?
Yeah.
That's bollocks.
No, it is bollocks.
That's such a dumb contract to have. That puts the club in a really piss poor situation. That they're not, essentially, they've got to pick players based on what the contract says as opposed to.
But in whose favour?
Merit.
But what if he doesn't do the 30? Who gets fined? I don't understand.
They could sue potentially for breach of contract.
Could, or I don't know. There could be some.
Or there might be a payoff, or
I don't know. I'm not a legal expert, but this is something he was reporting on, just to emphasize the point that it's not always in the best. You might think like some starting 11s are a bit crazy, or. You know, you may not understand what the manager's thinking, but it kind of makes sense of why we see certain players start over and over again, despite not.
I'd just love for a manager to come out and say, so why did you pick, Hakeem Ziyech? And I went, I've got no choice. It's a contract thing. I think that's such a bad thing. Like, surely you just need to pick a team based on merit and based on what's the best
to be honest,
win in the game.
I don't know if it's a thing of they need a certain amount of starts. It may be just a certain amount of appearances. I think
so like off the bench sort of and stuff.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that the average fan probably doesn't know that, and it's something they should think about when, you see a manager maybe bring on a player that they particularly don't like or understand the substitution.
But then what about like Hazard in that Real Madrid, for example? Because he literally sits on the bench doing nothing, and he
man's making bank. He can do what he wants.
He's on 400 grand a week, and he told them yesterday he's staying next year, didn't he?
Of course he is.
He did a Winston Bogart.
If I was Eden Hazard and I was at Real Madrid being paid 400,000 a week, knowing for a fact that this is my last big contract, you just stay there. You'd stay there another season, and then you just leave at the end of the free. Like, I would do the same. And the only reason I'm very because he's done so much at our club. But if it was any other player at our club, I'd be fuming. So I can completely understand why Real Madrid aren't happy. But it's just, it's one of those things. I was just having a look at what you said, Charlie. Like, it looks like that game that we drew against Forest, I think it was Serge Aurier scored the equaliser late on. We then went on a loss run. We only won one game from that point onwards, from the 1st of January up until the Leeds game where we won. So in that 2 months, I'm kind of hoping. How we fit? Let's look forward to Nottingham Forest a little bit. So Forest are currently playing at the moment. I don't know what the score is. It should be coming into a close at the moment. Forest, 3-2 still. Forest are kind of fighting for that. 4-2. Okay, so Forest have got the win. Yeah. So without looking at the league table, they need the points. So Chelsea don't really need the points at this stage.
No.
Could you see Forest turning up on Saturday and trying to do something like that? They're fantastic at home, but their away form has been woeful. But if there's any team that Forest could probably turn up for, it's Charity FC, Chelsea Football Club, because we love to give points away. We just like that. You get a point, you get a point, you get a point. How do we see? Do we think we're going to get back to back for the first time since Leeds Leicester?
Yeah, I actually kind of feel confident, but I think it's because it's going to be an end-to-end game. I don't see either defense doing well, so it'll probably be a score of like 2-2, 3-2. I don't know, 4-2 to whoever scores first, to be honest, because we're terrible.
Think we're going to score 4?
I think we could.
Do you think the gates have opened?
Yeah, I think so. If you see how bad we defend and how good we're getting attacking, it's kind of the old 2019-20 Lampard team where there's absolutely no midfield. We cross, shoot, and score, but we can't defend the lead to save our lives. Kepa lets everything in, so
yeah. I mean,
I think it's going back to that.
I was completely 4-3 now, according to Dale. I was worried when the first goal went in, and my missus was watching the game with me. She's like, "Oh, you've scored a goal. That makes a change." And I was like, "Great." Even she realizes. I said, "It doesn't matter. We'll concede eventually. Like we just will. It's just input in my head." And then when their goal went in, I think a key thing. Let's look at back to that Bournemouth game. A key thing was at 1-1. There was a chance when Solanke was through on goal, and there was a last-ditch tackle from Thiago Silva. Contentious. It went to VAR in very slow motion. It definitely looks like Thiago Silva has kicked Solanke as opposed to the ball. Do we think that if that had been given and had gone in, would we be talking about a 5th straight loss in the league?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because that's what I'm saying about the rub of the green. It was just that little bit, because when we scored as well, Bournemouth didn't really bring much back to us, So it was a similar sort of thing, And it's been like that, There's probably been a few times in those 6 games, even the Real Madrid game, the Real Madrid away game. Felix goes through after 2 minutes, that goes in. Who knows, right? Totally different match. In the return leg at Stamford Bridge, Cucurella scores that goal. Who knows? I think Mount had a chance. Who knows? It's all ifs and buts, unfortunately. But the buts have just been all going in off against us, unfortunately, and the ifs are just a pipe dream. So it's just that's kind of the way it's gone for the last 6 games. And this match happened to, the equilibrium happened to sort of go a bit like that. But the thing is, we don't know against Forest. It could go back. It could either go. Forest will be a funny game, right? Because I can't see. I don't think it'll be a draw. I've got a funny feeling that either Forest will win 1 or 2-0, or we will win about 7-0. It could be like one of them random matches, because this time of the season throws up some really funny results. I mean, Everton won today. I mean, that was what bookmakers wouldn't have even give you odds on that, I don't think, on that result. And there's been some funny matches recently, I think, that's, and it's always the first game of the season as well.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Results. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
My computer just froze and unfroze. Okay, that's fine.
The lights just dropped out like the Undertaker was about to enter the arena right then.
But the point I'm trying to make is this match could be anything, and it could just be that reflex thing that Chelsea have, where we just go out and batter a team for fun, and then we're back, kind of thing. Let's see. If I can't see it being a boring match. I agree with Tem there. I don't think it's going to be boring. I think it'll be quite exciting match. It's quite based upon the fact that we've got nothing to play for.
Add on to Charlie's point. You remember we've seen a few odd results. Like even when we won the league a few years, Palace beat us at home. We played actually quite decent then. Or was it Palace or Sunderland? I think it was Sunderland. They beat us at home like 2-1. And then last season, I remember we lost. Was it 4-1 at home to Brentford?
Yeah. West Brom beat us 5-2 one year. I remember around this time of the season.
We lost 3-0 against West Brom after we'd won the league. as well. Yeah,
So
and
it is. There are these freak results, but it could be in our favour. It could be like could be like when Liverpool beat Bournemouth 9-0 or whatever. It could just be a freak result.
We go to City and pummel them 6-0.
That I don't think that'll happen. I just think City are too good, but I think we could certainly go to Man United, for example, and do something. I believe that. I think we could go to Man United.
haven't won
and Newcastle at home. I think they might be home and dry by then. We could beat them 3 or 4-0. I mean, would they beat us 3-0 when we thought we were going to get in the Champions League a few years ago? I don't know if you remember that. And they beat us 3-0. I mean, that was a disgrace. But I think they were nearly going down that season. I mean, it's just it's a funny time these games this time,
Yeah, I think that's something that we have to consider. I mean, there's 4 games left in Chelsea's calendar in the fixture list. 4 games in 20 days. I don't know about you guys, but I'm very much looking forward to the end of the season, and for it to come to an end, just to kind of look and regroup and just have a little bit of a break. 2 months off. We can probably go to America and pummel Wrexham 8-0. Even that's going to be 2-0 or 2-1, isn't it? It's going to be very boring. But yeah, let's look forward a little bit to Forest, and we're talking about freak results and continuation of players. Let's look at who we think we should probably. How do you think? Do we think we need to stick to the 4-3-3 at the moment? Now we've got in that position. I think it's just about the players that we have, or where are we going? Is Madueke going to retain his place? Is Mudryk going to retain his place? Do we stick with Havertz in the centre? Or do we bring in somebody like Joao Felix to kind of sit as kind of a false 9? Like, what do we expect?
You go, Tim.
I think Kai's going to start again. I don't see Felix starting now. I think Lampard's kind of pushed his angle on. He doesn't see enough of him defensively, which, to be honest, at home against Forest, we shouldn't really see the defensive side of him or the team, really. I think we're on the front foot, and he's probably the best player going forward we have in terms of tight spaces. In a game like this, where you probably need to be intricate in passing the ball and moving, doing 1-2s, I think he is the best, but also the worst, because sometimes he often
trampoline touch.
Yeah. Well, not even that. I think Felix has a very good touch, but it's his decision making that needs to sharpen up. Same as Sterling, same as the rest of the attackers. I think at the moment, Maduake's looked our best player going forward. Again, his final product is terrible. So I
think, it's terrible, but I think it's something that's going to come with time. I think he's going to be better. I think Madueke, some of his decision making was a bit iffy in the game. I'll be completely honest. Like, I thought he had a good game, but his decision making, like, I think there was a couple of occasions where he could have laid the pass off for like Conor Gallagher at the near post for a tap in, and he didn't. He chose to take the shot on, and I think that's going to just be. I think there might just be excitement, like youthful exuberance. Like, he's playing in the game, he wants to make a big impression, he wants to score. I think that will come with time. I think, is he 20, 21 or less than 21?
Yeah, he's about that age. And it's funny you mentioned that. It was something I used to get really pissed off at Daniel Sturridge about back when he was at Chelsea. He used to play a lot of the times on the right wing, and he wanted to start as a striker. So when he came on, a lot of the times he would dribble out to the wing, beat the fullback, cut in and take the shot, and maybe there was an easy pass to like Drogba or Malouda on the other side. But after seeing what sort of a striker he turned out to be, you could understand why he kept trying those things. And I remember the following season, after Di Matteo had left, when Rafa Benitez took over, he played 2 times in like 5 months. And I actually blame Rafa, because we only had Fernando Torres at that time, if you remember. And then he got sent. He got sold to Liverpool, I think, in January.
He got sold to Liverpool, and then before that partnership with Suarez, nearly won the title.
So back to the actual original point, I was just saying, like, that I actually blame Rafa for, because I think Sturridge should have been given more of a chance that season, because again, he only had Torres up front, and Rafa actually gave Sturridge to Liverpool. So I think if he had gotten more of a chance, he might have stayed. Anyway, about the Chelsea attackers, I think it's something they need to work on towards the end of this season, just to sort of understand each other, try the pass a bit more. When you throw on goal, don't just shoot all the time. Look for a teammate if there is an option, but
I think
learn.
that's one thing that City do really well. Like City
Yeah.
players, the attackers, they always look for that cutback.
Yeah.
There's always, I think it's not just referred to commonly as the City goal. Like the podcast I listen to mostly is Guardian Football Weekly, and it's on 3 times a week, and that's the one I always listen to. But they talk about it as just a City goal. It's always that through on the break on the wing, and then the cutback. They take it to the byline, cut it back, tap in every single time, and it's like clockwork. Like look at the goals that they did with Mahrez at the weekend, like passed along the edge of the box to Gundogan, always in space, and they got those goals. Like, I think that's one of the things that we really, really, really miss, is somebody just to take their moment to lift their head up and just cut that ball back. But yeah, I have to agree in that scenario. So under that adage, Rafa Benitez and Daniel Sturridge didn't get the opportunities. Do we think there's now I mean, I know I'm reiterating, but there's other players that haven't had those game time, like Fofana. We've not seen Fofana in a long time.
Yeah.
So do you bring Fofana, even if it's just onto the bench for this weekend, especially if Aubameyang's not likely to play again until the end of the season? You need cover in that striker position. So do you bring Fofana back in now, because we don't have left backs that we can utilise. We've got 2 no left backs that we can use other than Lewis Hall, which creates a space for another player. So would Fofana be somebody you'd like to see get more of some minutes, Charlie?
Yeah, I wouldn't. But the thing is, I think the reason why, going back to that point as well, the reason why that City thing, I mean, it sounds great, but it doesn't work for us, is because none of these players take anyone on, and none of them get to the byline, except Madueke, right? But the problem is, even then, with Madueke, there's no one in there who finishes like that. Havertz.
But you say this,
so rigid.
You say this, but Conor Gallagher was doing it a lot, and I'm not a massive fan of Conor Gallagher this season. I think I made the joke 2 minutes before he scored. It's like, why is Gallagher getting pissed off that he didn't square the ball to him? When he's not exactly going to score, is he? But Conor Gallagher was always in that 6-yard box, I noticed, in that game.
Yeah, but which is good. That's the whole point. And to be fair, that link up seemed to work okay. But the point is, on the other side, I didn't really see Mudryk doing much. I mean, I don't know if it's because he got that early booking and maybe it just put him off ever trying to go around people. I think it probably did a little bit, because he thought that if he ever got taken down, he might risk getting sent off for simulation or whatever. I'm not sure, but because he was a bit unlucky that when he got booked for simulation, I think, because I think he just kind of it's a bit of a silly thing, isn't it? Because if you're a winger, you anticipate a touch from a defender, and if it doesn't come, you're already on your way over anyway, aren't you? So that's kind of the way it goes. But he got to the byline at that point, and he could have, and he's But the problem is with a lot of these, the way that we've been playing for like the last year, is that they seem to have this obsession with crossing the ball, and the problem is there's no one there who's any good at finishing it. It's all
surely
set for Lukaku.
Surely that's the opportunity. Yeah, surely that's the opportunity for that cutback, especially if you're
playing. No, but they're not the sort of players who go to the byline like that. They go sort of near the byline. What they do is they get sort of around that area, and then they get 2 of them like teaming up with each other. So you'll have like Reece James and I don't know. Let's say for example Ziyech, right? And they'll be on the same. They'll both be on the right. And they'll end up like passing it to each other back and forth, waiting for that gap for them to just whip it in, and then hope for the best. But it works with Lukaku when you got Lukaku around, or someone like that who's a big lump, and that's why that Fofana, I think, should. No, but it sounds stupid. That's why Fofana should be in there rather than Havertz.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he gets the. Look, you disagree? Please elaborate.
Yeah. You saw, if you actually watch a team quite similar to us, Liverpool. If you watch them in their title-winning season and the season before that, they used to cross the ball a lot. And you look at their front three was Salah, Mane, and Firmino, and they're just about 6 foot, and they used to score a lot of headed goals. I don't think it's a thing of height. I think it's how you attack the box and the angles you create. If you see Salah and Trent, they create angles for each other to get into the box or create good crossing angles. Whereas I don't think we quite do that. You see Reece James, like Tom said earlier, you see Reece James, sometimes he receives the ball on the half turn and he looks he looks not to take a player on, instead cut it back, wait for a really good crossing opportunity. Whereas
that's what I mean.
Trent plays that ball really early, or Salah will take one or two players on, and then Trent will overlap and he'll play that smart pass, and then they'll drill it across the box, or float it over to the far post, Mane or Firmino or Robertson. Someone comes on the end of it and scores. Yeah. And I don't think we quite do that. And plus, I don't think we have that type of threat on the left-hand side. So we're very one-sided in terms of creation.
The only person realistically that could do that cross on the left-hand side is Chilwell, but obviously he's not as high up as the pitch if you want. I mean, he can do. He's capable of it. I mean, not always corners, like they always hit the first man.
But the problem is as well, they don't throw enough people in the box. If you look at Liverpool, even look at that goal they scored at the weekend, right, against Brentford. Van Dijk was all the way up there. I don't think that was from a corner. I'm convinced it wasn't in my head. I think there was just an open play. I might be wrong. I'm convinced that goal was just scored in open play. And how was Van Dijk? What was he doing? He was playing as a centre forward. They just lump the box. They have this system where if Van Dijk or someone can go forward, Henderson or someone else drops back. They can work it like that. They have a system.
That's pretty standard. Really,
the problem we don't have. You don't see Silva going up there. He's probably not.
No, but you do it for corners. You do it for corners.
But I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong with this, but I think that Liverpool Brentford goal at the weekend, it was the only goal of the match. I'm pretty sure it was scored in pretty well open play. I don't think it was scored off.
It was a penalty, wasn't it?
No, it was a cross from.
Van Dijk headed it across the box.
Headed it across.
Oh, yeah.
That was a set piece corner. Okay, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm totally wrong. Sorry. But the point that I'm trying to make is we don't lump enough people in the box anyway. We don't. I mean, I can't. We
really don't. We really don't. Like, I think I have to agree. Like, especially when we got that free kick in like the final third. When it's not shooting opportunity and you have to cross the ball in. We always knock We always knock a pass sideways. We never, ever, ever, ever try and get that ball in the box.
The only time
that we're severely lacking.
The only time I could ever think of us overcommitting was maybe against Man United at home. I think if you remember, it was Jorginho tried to take a touch out the air on his own at the back.
Yeah.
And then he gave it to. Yeah, he got caught out. But other than
Sancho,
that,
wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of the time, even when you saw us under Tuchel, when we took corners, we'd try cross it in. If it didn't come back in, we'll play it all the way back to the keeper and then kick it out of play.
Try again,
yeah. Whereas other teams will pile on that pressure, and even look back to our title-winning teams when we had Drogba, Malouda, and Elka. A lot of them were simple goals. We would get Malouda on the right or Ivanovic, smash the ball across. Someone would tap it in, and it's 1-0, and we'd end up winning 5 or 6-0 just because we'd had players attacking the box.
In that, yeah.
Yeah, where it's different from when we had obviously Eden Hazard. He could take 3-4 players on and create a chance by himself, but we don't have those type of players now. So if you don't have those type of players, the best way to attack is in numbers, because the defense sits deeper. You have more time and maybe space to shoot from the edge of the box or create something. But even then, we don't really have any threats from edge of the box apart from maybe Gallagher now. So yeah, I think it's we have to work. We have to work as a system in sort of repetition. How do we create chances with the players we have at the moment? I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think Dale's going to hit the nail on the head. Plus, you need a soul holding midfielder to be on top form to overcommit. And I don't think we have that person that just sits the whole time. I think they rotate that player through different time. I think every single think of it this way. Look at the squad that we had in 2005. You have Claude Makelele. He's that player that sits. He's not bombing forward. He just sits. He's like, nah, you guys go forward. I've got this. He just sits there. We don't have that. I think Enzo and Kovacic and Kante and all those players, they rotate around who goes forward. I think it'd be interesting to say, okay, each and every corner, so there's no confusion. If you've got Conor Gallagher and you've got Kante and you've got Enzo deciding to sit, you say, right, Enzo's sitting, you two go forward every single time, and that breeds that continuity, and they know exactly what they're going to be doing. It'd be interesting to see what happens when Poch comes in. So, interesting news. We'll push on a little bit with this, boys, because I'm conscious of time.
Is it all right if we just bring up that ethereal comment as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Caicedo is definitely a player, but I think we've talked enough that this team hasn't had a DM for many, many years. So And I disagree with also Dale's point about Silva with the high line, because we do often play with the high line. I think we just don't get caught out that much. So I think that's definitely a comment that doesn't make sense to me. I think it's just more of a case of how we keep pressure when we have the ball, rather than.
I don't know. We have had a defensive midfielder, but it's been Kante. But the problem is Kante doesn't. I don't know what it is. He's just seen as that box to box player. He kind of like. He is a defensive midfielder. He wins balls like in that area. He's not got height on the edge of the box. You don't really want the ball falling to him on the edge of the box. Of the three on the weekend, Gallagher and Enzo, I think I'd rather go to one of those two than Kante. But for some reason, some managers don't play him there, which I don't completely understand. I mean, Charlie, do you think it should be something where it should be something like that, where a defensive midfielder, a nominated defensive midfielder, stays back all the times? I mean, think of it this way. Okay, Charlie, you weren't in the game yesterday, but we played a game yesterday. So I know it's Sunday League, so probably going to bore people doing this. But Temba and I played centre back yesterday, and we got a player called Jose in our team, and Jose was our defensive midfielder, and he did not bomb forward at all. And then once Jose went off, did you notice how there was more people attacking in that scenario because we didn't have that cover? I know it's the We Talk Chelsea podcast, but we're going to talk we talk Man v Fat Solihull. Sorry, do you think it should be something that, Charlie, that we need to utilise more and have that cover that sits there all the time, and there's no chopping and changing, no rotation? The Makelele.
Yeah, exactly. And when you've got, I mean, it's the player that gives you the license, so to speak, to go forward. And if you haven't got to worry about what your responsibilities are going back, it's a lot easier to go forward, isn't it? It's the same as, it's a very similar position to being a right back or a left back or something like that, where you know that you can go forward, only when you've got cover somewhere else, and it's kind of similar to that. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that they need someone there, but the problem is who, and the next problem is what happens when that guy gets injured. We were very fortunate with Makelele, because Makelele never got injured either. People forget that Makelele played that season, and I think he played 2 years at Chelsea, and the season after we won the league both years with him. And no, he only played 1 year.
Four.
Makelele,
he was in the Champions League final.
No, not Makelele. Was he in 08?
Yeah,
I thought he only. I swear he only. Why do I not? I just had it in my head.
Oh, so was it Lampard, Makelele, and Ballack then?
Yeah,
in the Champions League final. Oh, and then who else was on that team?
Essien was there.
No, but then he couldn't have played. They couldn't have played 4 central midfielders in one match.
No, it's 4-2-3.
I'm not saying he wasn't there, but I'm saying that he.
I don't
got it in my head that
started, but I know Makelele definitely was there. I know that for
a
fact.
I'm googling it now.
I don't know,
you talk amongst yourselves.
I had it in my head that he was only at Chelsea for 2 years, and he just started. I don't know why.
I'm sure he started that final, but I'm sure the semi-final he didn't play.
But the point stands is that as soon as one player gets injured, then you're in a mess. And the problem is this DM role or defensive midfield role.
Boys, we played a 4-5-1.
Yeah, I got it wrong.
Michael Essien was right back.
All right, calm down, mate. I'll beat you the next quiz.
Man. What a team!
I don't know why I had it in my head that he was only there for sort of 2 years. He wasn't there for that long because we had.
I think he signed it. He was one of Abramovich's first signings.
Yeah, he was there when he was there, 100%.
Yeah. I was excited
when he won the league, and then he was there for the second time he won the league. I know that much, but I didn't realise. Because that means he was there for 5 years, I think.
Yeah. He got injured quite a bit. Because I remember Mikel was his understudy, and
that was it, Mikel. Yeah.
Jose wanted.
He left and learn. He left that year, and then he left at the end of that, and then he went to PSG for 2 years, and then he retired.
Yeah, that's it. But the point is that to be a really good defensive midfielder, it's an old man's game in a way. You have to be able to. There's quite a bit to it. It's not actually a lot. It's not particularly. You don't run around a lot, I don't think. To be, it's not that sort of job. It's more sort of you have to be able to read the game, and there's a bit more to it. It's not. Yeah. I mean, Makelele, I wouldn't say he wasn't particularly good at taking players on. He certainly wasn't very good at shooting. He wasn't. I wouldn't say he was technically gifted, but he but he was very good at reading the game. He knew where he needed to be. He was very good at tackling things like that, interceptions.
Yeah.
But he wasn't particularly. I wouldn't say he was going to be spraying 50-yard passes. He wasn't that sort of guy. It was a 5-yard pass all the time. That was the key. Simple.
I believe the football manager term is anchor. I know you hate that, but that's what they do. Anchors are somebody that holds it and then the pivot, and they pass it off to the more expressive players. That was Makelele.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm just looking at this team for the 2008 final, and it's incredible. But then when you look at the United team, that too is incredible. That was such a good final. I know we lost, but yeah. It was like those two teams.
I was at that final. I can't remember that Makelele played. Disappointing.
He was substituted on the 124th minute for Belletti to come on.
Probably penalties.
Penalties.
Yeah, for penalties. Yeah, I think Belletti scored. Anyway, we lost. John Terry slipped, and we cried. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Munich happened, and that's the only thing people remember. Anyway, we digress. We've got about 10 minutes or so here, so let's have a look here. So we're looking forward. So let's talk about the recent news in terms of managers. We'll end on this one. So it's looking like Pochettino is going to come in this week. Well, they say Pochettino. Okay, Charlie, for the benefit of you, what I'll say is David Ornstein, he's reporting that the Chelsea manager situation will be tied up this week. So what that means is somebody will have signed on the dotted line and we'll have a Chelsea manager. And it's very, very likely it's going to be Pochettino, because I don't know about you, Tem. Have you heard any other names other than Pochettino in the last 2 weeks?
No. So
Charlie, can I ask you this question? Have you heard any other names other than Pochettino in the last 2 weeks?
Just because David Ornstein says something, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything. It honestly doesn't, because some of those journalists were reporting that Nagelsmann, in fact, that Fabrizio guy said apparently, who's you might as well. If everyone was to believe,
unless you get here we go.
He wrote the Bible. But they said he was going. Nagelsmann's about to sign this, that, and the other. Then he said that someone else was going to sign, and this, that, and the other. So I don't believe until it's done. I wouldn't believe anything. And look, if I'm just looking, forget about what the journalists have said, please. Forget about what the journalists said. If you heard that some guy had gone over for an interview 3 weeks ago and still not got the job, and there was and all that sort of stuff, you go, well, hang on, what's going on here? In football management terms, due diligence. What is the due diligence? They've seen he's on TV. When he's managing PSG and Tottenham and whoever, they can see what he does. They can watch back every Tottenham game if they want. That's the due diligence. They don't need to, get us waiting for a CRB check or something to be done. It is just that is him. That's the guy.
Imagine that's the reason. Imagine that's the reason why they said he didn't get the job. It's we checked Nagelsmann, but he's got a speeding conviction from 3 years ago. That's why he can't have the job. How stupid would that be?
Can I just end this Charlie conspiracy theory as well?
Conspiracy.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you don't believe any of these reporters, why do you read the news?
You read the Sun.
No, I know, but it's that I don't. I take it with a pinch of salt. I'm just saying what I'm saying is, there must be. This is the longest ever. And the funniest thing is, I agree. It probably will be Pochettino, right? But
so you believe him?
No, I believe. I believe it probably will be Pochettino. However, what I want to say is that it's very strange how he's been in America for 3 weeks. Do you not think that's weird? Is that not weird to you? That some guy can
he's on family holiday. He's on a family holiday before he takes a Chelsea job.
How do the reports line up to what's happening if it wasn't happening? Because obviously these journalists do have some sources at Chelsea. Maybe some of it they might be given false information. Of course, that could always happen, but journalists usually break these sort of exclusive or breaking news, blah blah blah. It's because they get feeders. They've got some sources from inside the club. So whatever the club tells them, obviously they report on, and we just are left to sort of guess what's really happened behind the scenes. We don't know what happens behind the scenes. Like a funny story was Micah Richards. I was watching on a podcast he was on, and he said that Emmanuel Adebayor signed for Villa on deadline day. He actually held up a T-shirt, and he was at the training ground, You remember the season Villa went down?
Yeah, he did all the promo for it as well, where he's pitching in like the Villa top,
Yeah, and nobody ever reported on that. But you can imagine like these things happen behind the scenes where we don't get to see what happens. So when these journalists report that, it's because they've been given a source from someone inside the club. So we don't know what happened with Nagelsmann. He might have been close to Chelsea and something happened.
I think, I genuinely think he was. I think he was, but then for whatever reason, he might have wanted a certain condition. He might have wanted to bring in 20 back staff, and they were like, we don't want to bring in 20 people. So, do you know what I mean? So Dale saying, how are you always shooting at Villa? Fuck off. Villa having a great
thing
season.
Is, though, it's like I've never known a manager. I've known manager searches take a long time, but manager negotiate, that pretty open manager negotiates. It's fairly obvious Pochettino's talking to Chelsea. I'm not denying that. I don't think it's. I think that's
like I said to you last week. I think he's already signed.
Okay,
but then again, what's the secret? What is the? We're like we've said, we're not getting relegated. Lampard's already pretty much knows he's not. Well, he knows he's not getting the job. Everyone else knows he's not getting the job. Everyone knows that Pochettino. What are they doing? They're doing like I've said it before. I don't know. Are they trying to make a Netflix documentary on it? Are they doing an apprentice style audition process to try and you're fired, Bowley, and doing all this, and maybe they're just waiting for filming for that. I don't know, but it just seems a bit. There doesn't seem to be anything. It's not like Pochettino's in work either. That he's got it's going to affect the team that he's managing right now, or any. There's no reason for it.
Can I just add to that? If you saw the reports today, there was a lot of talk about the agreements in terms of player sales and players he wants to keep in the future. And he apparently requested like cameras to be put around the training ground and all of these stipulations that he wants to see the players' behaviors, attitudes, and different things I saw in that report. I didn't read it all, but I just saw the headline. Sorry, say that again.
Is that for Pochettino?
Yeah, that's for Pochettino. So maybe all these demands and stuff takes a longer time to negotiate. I'm not sure because it doesn't look quite straightforward. And with this whole due diligence stuff, it looks like, once it gets done, we'll all just, relax and be happy at the end of it.
Can you imagine if after 3 months he loses every match? What a complete waste of time that due diligence would have been.
That's the role of being a football manager, isn't it? Like football managers can earn more now than what they did when they were playing. So like they can earn more than some of the whole squad. So it's mad to think some of these what the money these are. So I'm conscious of time, chaps, because it's getting late in the UK and I have a tiny child that wakes up at 6 a.m. Let's move on to this weekend. We've got to go for score predictions. So very, very quickly, we're going to go head and heart like we did last week. Charlie, what's your head telling you and what's your heart telling you? What's going to be the score?
Head's telling me 2-0 Chelsea. Heart 7-0 Chelsea.
Wow.
You heard it here first.
Okay, head's telling me 3-1 Chelsea.
Yep.
No, actually, my head's telling me 2-2. My head's telling me 2-2, but my heart's telling me 3-1 Chelsea.
Cool. I'm going to go with my head and my heart, and I think it's going to be a 2-0 win. I'm saying it. I think we're going to win 2-0.
Wow.
That's what I'm going to go with. I definitely will not remember what any of us said this time next week. So just try and remember it yourself, and we'll just check in on Sunday at 3 p.m. For the benefit of people, thank you very much for joining us this week and watching another episode of We Talk Chelsea podcast. We are also live on Charlie. If you want to mention, we're on a network.
Yeah, we're live on TKS TV. We're live on TKS TV. Thank you very much for broadcasting us, and you can catch us and his channel on tkstv.co.uk. Thank you very much, Lee Morgan.
Thank you very much, Lee. Well, we appreciate your time, Tem, Charlie, and myself. Thank you very much for watching us again. Jamal, Dale, Ethereal, make sure you like and subscribe. Tell your friends, even if they don't like Chelsea, they could probably laugh at our misery when we inevitably get pummeled 8-0 by Nottingham Forest on Saturday. Thanks very much, chaps. See you all next week.